Okay, so here we are. We're going to do some benchmarking today with the Mac Pro 5.1 with the 5060 Ti card in it, an Apple Mac M3 Max, and an AMD Ryzen 9 7945HX, and that's got an RX9060 16 gig card in it. Now, the reason we can do this is because basically 3DMark have released a silicon native benchmarking tool. It came out last week. Because you've never really been able to compare like for like across platforms. So let's run the tests and let's see what we get. So 3DMark. Okay, I mean, this has been around for years for gamers. They've been using it and they've only given you a certain amount. They've given you Solar Bay, they've given you still Nomad, they've given you still Nomad Lite, and then World of Extreme. This is on the Mac. I'm on the Mac at the moment. So we'll run those first of all. We'll run the Solar Bay and we'll see what the results are. I just thought it'd be really interesting because for years everybody goes on about, well, since the M-class Macs have come out, everybody goes on about how powerful the GPUs are. By the way, this is an M3 and it's got 40 GPU cores. But everybody goes on about how powerful they are and everything like that. And there's never really been, I haven't seen one, a sort of like-for-like comparison with the benchmarking tool that runs on a Mac and a PC. Sadly, I can't do Linux because I'm sure Linux would be a little bit better, possibly. I don't know. But I just thought, this would be a worthwhile time to do this test and see what it does. So first one, Solar Bay. I mean, it's just, I think these are all done at 256 by, what is it, 256 by 1440. I think one of them's 4K. But yeah, I mean, it runs great on the Mac, but I mean, it's really the results. So hang on, here we go, first set of results. And there you go, 30,176 for the Mac. There you go, 36 gig of RAM. And it's an Apple M3 Max, it's the laptop, and it's on the latest version of OS X. So next, I think we do still Nomad. Now, still Nomad's been around, again, is another one. It's been there for ages and people use it to benchmark computers, and it's a great little test. It does load up super quick on here, but yeah, I mean, it's the first time we've ever been able to run these properly on a Mac, to test them on an M Mac, to test them. I absolutely could not find a cross-platform game that I could benchmark on Windows and Mac that's been silicon, it's a pure silicon native game. And I wanted to, Tomb Raider still runs through Rosetta. I think Baldur's Gate 3, but that was just gigantic. That runs natively. But the one that's coming out, I think Code Red, is it Code or Project Red, are going to do Cyberpunk 2077. That's a native port on a Mac. Now, that's always been a classic for benchmarks. So that'll be really interesting to see what it does. So yeah, so here we go. It's coming up. And obviously, if you know this, he finds out that he's a wanted man. It's not great narrative, but it's a good test. Here we go. And what do we get for that? $1923. Now, I know that's quite low. Average frame rate, 19 frames per second. That's not fantastic, is it? So yeah, so you can see that it's Metal API. So now we've got Nomad Lite, non-ray tracing benchmark, smartphones, tablets, and lightweight PCs using DirectX 12, Vulkan, or Metal on OS X. There it is, 2560, 1440. So let's see what it does with that. Obviously, it's an interesting test, this. I mean, I know that the Macs are fab. The M-class Macs are brilliant. I mean, I use one for work every day. But I think that when it comes to gaming, I honestly think that it's not a great platform. But I'm really interested to see what they can do if they port it over. I mean, they're powerful enough. They're integrated, unified memory, and all that sort of business. But then, I thought I'd chuck this up against a 5.1. Because the problem with this is you've lost Windows. You can do it through Parallels, but I don't know if you'll ever get the level of performance by being able to run native Windows or something for games, or even Linux on ARM. I mean, that's a tricky one. I'm sure they'll get there with it, but I don't know if it's ever going to be as good as it is on an Intel box. But here we go, same narrative. And he's found himself, he's the guy. But obviously you see it's dark, so they've turned everything off. And off we go. What do we get for that? Should be better. 4905 frames per second, 36 frames per second. And the last one they've given you to play with is one called Wildlife Extreme. Here we go. And that's run at 4K. That'd be interesting. Now the thing is, I mean, you can see this was actually, I found this for the iPad. And I was wondering if you could do it on a Mac for the iPad, but literally within about 4 days of me finding it on the App Store to do this, they brought out this, which is the full version to test Macs. So that should be pretty interesting to see what this does when it stacks up. Now obviously I'll run exactly the same tests on all three machines. So that's the Ryzen, the 5-1 and the Mac. And the Ryzen's got a 9060 XT 16 gig card in it. So that should, I would imagine, that should be quite similar to what the NVIDIA card bangs out. It's fascinating. The 5060 Ti is a great card, but if you really wanted to play games, then you could really get away with the 9060s, but phenomenal as well. Plus, it literally day one support on Linux. I was still battling with the drivers for the 5060 Ti from NVIDIA like weeks after I got it, and I still haven't got it properly going. But I think that AMD are much better with the driver support. And also, I mean, I put it on Bazzite. There we go, 13, 20, 29, that's 79 frames per second. That's not bad. Anyway, let's have a look at the scores up against the other machines and see what we got. There we go. Just a quick look at my machine, 30 core. Right, Solar Bay, the Mac 5-1 whomps in with 71,000, whatever that is, 71,000. The M3, 30,000. The Ryzen, 60,000. So it's a rare time where we can say that the Mac Pro 5-1 is the winner on that, on Solar Bay. That was that first one with all the solar panel things obviously floating around. What's next? We've got still Nomad. Ooh, Mac Pro comes in at 344. Apple Mac M3 1923, and the Ryzen just pips it with 3732. It's interesting. It's a battle of those two cards, isn't it? I don't think the M3 Max is going to make any kind of showing. It'd be nice to do this on an M4, see how it's improved. I mean, it's just Metal API, so it's what they're touting. We've got still Nomad Lite. 5-1 wins again there with the 5060 Ti. So 14376 versus 4909. And then the Ryzen comes in with 1384. Yeah, so it is, with those two cards, they're really close on performance, I think. I think it's really, if you want AI, it's the big deal. Because Wildlife Extreme, what have we got there? Mac Pro 5-1 wins again with the 5060 Ti, 27741 versus the Ryzen 27400. And then in the middle there, well, not in the middle at all, 13292. There you go. I mean, these are synthetic benchmarks, and they're designed to test the graphics capabilities. You know, this won't translate because of the subsystem into real world performance. So the next thing I did was Puget's benchmark for creators, and what this is a DaVinci Resolve test. And you'll see it like loads up all these projects, and it's automated. You've got a DaVinci standard one here. I think you can do the basic with the free version. This is the one, and it literally, it takes it all the way through. So this is Resolve 20, and obviously you've got Resolve on a Mac, you've got Resolve on Windows. I can't do it on Linux because basically the benchmark just won't. I couldn't get it to run. I could try it with Proton, I suppose, but don't know about that. That might not work. Anyway, this is a very long test. It's taking tons and tons of different formats. We got that DNxHR, LBUHD, encoding it. It tries the GPU effects. Now, I'm going to be pretty, I don't think the 5.1 stands a chance here, because fundamentally it's all about the subsystem now, isn't it? It's now the old CPUs on that 5.1. They're so dated. It's going to be really problematic. The Ryzen should put in a good showing. It's a really modern chip. But this is a point that, you can see where if you build a system that everything matches up, which Apple does, I'm sure that the MacBook would shine. I mean, I use Resolve all the time, and the M3 Mac was just brilliant. I came off of a M1 Ultra, I think it was, I had beforehand, And this thing, even though it's a laptop, sort of trounces on M1 Ultra, M1 Max. It was the box. And basically, this thing trounced it for encoding speeds. You can see up there 4K HEV. Now, one of the things that you may find out, though, using Resolve on these older machines is basically they've got the inbuilt encoders. So you've got AV1, which you don't have on a Mac. Mac doesn't have AV1 encoding yet. You've got what's it called, HEVC, whatever it's called, which is H.265 and H.264. And they've got the encoders built into the card. So I think with the latest generation of NVIDIA cards especially, they basically put more encoders in, double the encoders. There's 2 encoders in my MacBook here. And they've also tuned it up to literally everything, apart from ProRes, I believe, you can put through the card encoder. So anybody out there with a 5090 is going to have a field day with one of these things, because obviously it's encoding everything through there. There's also, I suppose, like the AI capability of NVIDIA cards far surpasses anything to do with AMD, because they're, basically NVIDIA is more of an AI company now. They are making other stuff, but it's really all for them. And AMD have got some catching up. But I mean, most of the time you're really, you choose one of these cards for what you want. I mean, I use the 5060 and the 5.1 for AI work, because AI just doesn't really need for heavy processors. It might make it quicker because it dumps everything into the RAM, the VRAM, not the RAM. Obviously, it dumped it into the RAM of the what is that, DDR2, DDR3, I don't know. Dumped it all into RAM on a 5.1, then it would just take forever. So here we go, what we're doing now, temporal noise reduction. Now, I don't know if that's a GPU accelerated effect. Probably is. Yeah, it is. You can see it on the right-hand side there. And you can see, actually, this has been done on the Ryzen, just to show you it. You can see the CPU temp is sat at 90. I don't know what it is about that machine. I've chucked in tons of fans. It just will not go below 90 when it's on load. I'm doing something wrong somewhere. I'm sure if it's got fan at the front, fan at the back, fan on the CPU. I've switched all the fans to maximum, and it still trundles along at 90. Now, I know with that Ryzen, it firmly throttles at 100, and it just sits on 91. That's what it does on Doom Eternal, Doom everything. Just sits there. So what are we doing now? GPU effects again. Now, if this relies on the CPU, this is where the old Mac Pro will fall down dramatically. What have we got here? Film grain again. See, the more they offload the effects into the GPU, the less reliant you are on a CPU, the better. But I mean, it's sort of like, I think we're going that direction where now all the chips are becoming integrated. You've got APUs. So if you look at some of the AMD chips that are coming out, everything's going in. I think there's a new AI chip that they brought out that's onboard graphics has the equivalent capability of a 4060. I mean, that's impressive. And that's one of these things that's soldered directly onto a motherboard as well. And the RAM is completely connected to it as well. I think some of the PC manufacturers are trying to emulate what they do with a Mac, which is put everything all together. However, I do believe that on those APUs, that it still doesn't have full direct unified access to the memory. I think it's partitioned, it's got memory partitioning. So it's a little bit slower. Anyway, what are we up to now? We're up to GPU effects, spatial noise reduction better. Lens blur times 5. Yeah, there's tons of these tests. And then it'll get to the end and it'll give us a number. Now, there's 2 numbers you can get from the benchmark test. There's a standard and a basic, and I've just given you the standard. I believe that's because I've got the DaVinci Resolve Studio Edition running here. Anyway, what are we up to? This goes on forever, doesn't it? Okay, lens flares. It's chucking the kitchen sink at it. It's great. It's like some massive batch script that runs through everything. We've got lens flares, more lens flares. Jesus Christ. Oh, it's going on. Look at it go. Another one. What have we got next? Another test. Optical flow. I don't know if optical flows, that GPU, they are GPU accelerated effects. That's interesting. I wonder how well the NVIDIA GPU compares to the AMD. I should do a proper test with, like, on a Windows machine or something, and just test the GPU against GPU in these kind of effects. AMD's never, well, they were, but they've never really been renowned for the high end. Whenever people talk about using something like Resolve, they always use an NVIDIA card because the drivers, the creator drivers NVIDIA give you, are tuned to do this. I think the latest ones are basically really, really good with the encoding aspects of it all. So what do we on that? Sharpening. So this is all GPU. Another thing is that you can also switch, and you do this when you start Resolve up, you switch it to debugger and decompress away from the CPU. So like an R3D, a red file. The debugger is where it like demosaics the file and makes it something you can look at. And basically that's done by the GPU. And then the decompression, because red's a compressed, lossless compressed file, the GPU is also handling that element. So all that's taken off the CPU. Back when we had to do red files with CPUs, that was a disaster. And you used to have a separate, red used to, as usual, sell a really expensive accelerator card that you could speed up your workflow. And then obviously NVIDIA stepped into the frame. And here we go, what's that one? Color nodes 30. NVIDIA stepped into the frame and allowed you to do debugger from an NVIDIA card. That was great because obviously our NVIDIA cards really, you could use them. I mean, I've used Macs for years. I haven't had to fight in amongst that area, but it was great when the GPU is allowed to take a lot of this sort of weight off the CPU. What's this one? Tracking? Compositing. 2D Fusion. That's probably CPU, he says. I don't actually know. That's CPU temp. CPU. See, this machine, the Ryzen 9's got two graphics things. It's got, the chip itself's got a 6010M in it, which is atrocious. Like, I suppose it's not atrocious, but it's just like not great. And then obviously I've got the 9060. I thought like a complete AMD rig was a good way to sort of like test it, as opposed to putting an NVIDIA card on a Ryzen motherboard. Here we go. I can see we're coming on the timeline here. I can see we're coming to the end. So listen to me talking continuously for 20 minutes nearly, which isn't great. What have we got there? Digital glitch. That's an effect. I don't know if that's CPU or GPU. Coming to the end here, and then it will show us the results. It will show us the results, he says. How long is that? It's about a 10-minute test. Maybe I should have played some elevator music, but you'd have got bored to death, wouldn't you? Listen to elevator music for 10 minutes. Listen to me rambling all over the top on this. Okay, what's the last one? Must be the last one. Phone composite. There we go. It's tracking on. Bit of advertising, Puget Systems. I love the way at the end of the test it takes you straight to the website. So it says buy one of our PCs. You can do it quicker. Anyway, go to the results now. Let's have a look. Okay, there you go. Mac Pro 5.1. Oh, finishes last. 4285. The M3 Max, that's pretty good. 7357. Just followed by the Ryzen. That's impressive, isn't it? For a single chip with a graphics card. It's because it's a complete system. The memory bandwidth, everything works together, and it's got the encoders built into the chip as well. So there you go. That's why you can see why the Mac guys, like, M3, the Mac's M3 cut chips are great for creators. However, as I think the earlier tests have shown, that games, well, not so much. Last test here is PCI bandwidth. I thought I'd explain this. Here we go. Here's the PCI bandwidth, quite fun this, on a Mac 5.1 with a 5060 Ti in it. He says, is it going to play? Watch this. So this is basically overloading the bandwidth, overloading the card, trying to get as much data as you can across the PCI bus. And this is a test that's built into 3DMark. I can't run this. There is no PCI thing on a M3 Mac. So I've just done this on the Ryzen just to show you. This is PCI 2 versus PCI 5. This is obviously a huge stumbling block with old Macs as they rumble off into the sunset. But mind you, there'll be a lot of people joining me over in the Linux world soon when Tahoe doesn't support their Macs, unless those guys can patch it. But yeah, all Windows, but I'd go with Linux. Hang on, here we go. It's still loading. Still loading. Still loading. How much? I don't think I'll run. Look at this. Look at this. It's just painful to watch. Frames per second. You can see down the bottom there, bandwidth 3.5 gig, and it's like counting frame after frame after frame. That's PCIe 2. That's the bandwidth on a Mac 5.1. There's no surprises there, but it's just really interesting to illustrate this. Now the 9060 XT, which you're going to see next, that's a PCIe 5, and that's a 16-bit card. The 5060, I mean, this is done on the 5060, but the 5060 isn't 8 lanes, 16 lanes. Here we go, look, check this, 16, but whopping. Yeah, it says PCIe 5 times 8. That's the card, not the bus. And here we go, this is the Ryzen. This is what PCIe 5 looks like, even though it may report PCIe 4. Look at that. Same test. That's what's going over. It's just chucking up. I mean, I'm going to run this whole test. You can just see it because it's so quick. So that's the difference between the data passing on PCIe 2 compared to the data passing on PCIe 5. It's a whole different thing, isn't it? Look at it go. 31 frames. It's saying 30 gigs. I'm sure that's not quite right. I'm sure it should be quicker. I don't know. Anyway, it's 10 times faster. 10 times faster. Here we go. It's 10 times faster than the 5.1. There you go. 34 gigs per second. Anyway, I hope that's useful. Thank you for watching.